All right, I will officially call this Akron Rotary meeting to order. And today our invocator is Cindy Kane. Cindy?
Fellow Rotarians, please join me in prayer. We come together today with grateful hearts, thankful for the men and women of the armed forces who have fought for our great country and our freedom. Bless them and their families as we honor their sacrifices. We are blessed in our relationships with our families, our neighbors, and our fellow Rotarians. We are thankful for our talents and gifts. We pray for wisdom, knowledge, understanding, and prudence. We pray today for Anne as she shares her insight on the work that she is doing for the Pro Football Hall of Fame Resort and Entertainment Company. May she be blessed in her work. We pray that we find fulfillment in service above self and always strive to build goodwill and better friendships. Amen.
Thank you, Cindy. And now if you can join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
Pledge allegiance to
the
the
flag
flag
of
of the United States of
America,
America,
and to the republic
to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now may we have the four-way test slide, Cheryl. Of the things we think, say, and do, is it the truth? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And will it be beneficial to all concerned? All right. Thank you. We have a greeter here, David Hall. David, do you have some guests you'd like to introduce?
Going through the list here, I think I see one guest here is Christy Erb. Is it Erb? Christy?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, I believe you're a guest. Who are you? Who invited you?
She's a guest with Dan Riemenschneider. Christy's a principal of our CLA office in Canton.
Very good.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Welcome, Christy.
Thank you.
Let me see.
Dan, there's a Madison Zurakowski.
Yes, Madison, can you unmute? There we go.
Hello. Yes, I'm with Anne at the Hall of Fame Village.
Very good. Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And I don't see any others, Dr. Rob. I think we're at just two guests and our guest speaker.
All right. Cheryl, there was a gentleman from California that had requested. Was that for this meeting or next week?
It was, but he is not here at this time.
Okay, so we'll be on the lookout. There's a pediatrician actually from California had reached out and wanted to be invited to our meeting. So if you see Arthur, and I lost his last name, but he will be joining us a little bit later. Thank you. Well, happy Memorial Day to everybody. And thank you to all of you who have served or are family members that have served. Were there any ambassadors, before we go any further into business, that visited another club or another Rotary event that I would like to share? I'm not seeing any hands. I'm not even seeing the usual culprits. Cheryl and Jack.
I've got one.
Oops. Jack, you're muted. Jack, I think you muted yourself.
There we go. I'm sorry. We remain members of the Recreational Vehicle Fellowship, even though we sold our coach. And we got a request to participate in the reverse raffle, which we all get requests, but this one is particularly interesting in that each year they, at their annual meeting, in the community they're meeting in, they raise money and give it to the local fire department or police department for special equipment. And this year They've got, I think, $1,750 to donate. And the impact of it is profound. We were at a meeting at the Corvette facility plant, and they made a donation to the local fire department, which completed the funding for the Jaws of Life, which before our conference was done, they had used to extract somebody from a car. So there's Rotary in action.
All right, thank you, Jack. Anyone else? Was anybody else an ambassador? All right, we'll sing. Let me see. Is that a movement? Julie Brandel, I'm sorry. Were you an ambassador this week?
Dr. Rob, I'm an ambassador every week, but in which nothing needs to be mentioned today. But I thank you.
All right, I thought for sure you were.
You don't really want to bore these people every week with these shenanigans.
Oh, come on. We like your exposure, and you got it. You get our club out there. That's wonderful. So before I get any other announcements, I want to go to our icebreaker. Since it's Memorial Day, I remember as a younger man that it was always a time for me to be scrambling to make sure I had a summer job or something to keep me out of trouble. So I thought I'd like to hear from you all your best or most interesting or unique summer job experience. And it may have reflected in what your current vocation is, but chances are it doesn't. So take a minute, think about some unusual jobs that you've had that may have reinforced what you're doing or may have led you to a new direction or was just kind of fun. Dan Riemenschneider, I haven't heard from you for a bit.
So, all right. So I'm one of 8 boys. So my mom struggled, and she's now a saint. But so I worked at the flour mill in downtown Kent during the summers when I was going to the University of Akron, and during wheat season, we would work 12-hour days, 7 days a week for about 2.5, 3 weeks. And I would work the nights from 6 to 6. And one Friday night, we were up in the elevator. And when you work in a flour plant, there's lots of flour everywhere. And the guy that kind of supervised me would always hit me in the face with flour, and I would look like a raccoon. And one night I thought I would get the best of him. So I cut off a 100-pound bag of flour with about 15 pounds of flour on it. And I sent it up the elevator to the top of the bins because I knew he was going to go check them. And when it got up to the top, it would dump over, and then poof, flour would come down the elevator shaft. Well, I was shoveling wheat onto the belt, and in walks the mill supervisor, the boss, and he had a black sweater on, and he hopped on the elevator, and he went up the elevator because he was on a date, and he just wanted to check the bins before he went out on his date. He went up. I know I'm in trouble, and down comes this gush of flour off the top of the elevator, and the guy I was trying to hit walks in. And he goes, "What the heck was that?" And I go, "Well, Dick just went up the elevator, and I just nailed him." And he goes, "When he gets down here, you just shovel like crazy because he's going to be ticked off." And he came down, he shook his head, wiped off his shoulders, and said, "Clean that up," and walked out. But he was fired up. But I think he kind of shook it off. Thank goodness.
So he was fired up and you were not fired. Is that the
I
point?
was not fired, but I was shoveling like heck. So
well, that's an interesting story for sure. Manby Jr., tell us about one of your summer escapades that is PG and ready for sharing.
Why'd you have to say PG when you came to me?
Come on.
I don't have something. So basically my dad had a building out in Richfield, about 7 acres. So I did the landscaping. So basically, mowing the grass, edging, etc. And it totally sucked. It took me almost a whole week to do the whole thing. I had a 21-inch, plastic lawn boy. And I think the weed whacker had 6 extension cords I had to do. So I did convince my dad to get me a gas weed whacker and a little bit bigger mower. But I determined that landscaping and mowing grass is not something I wanted to do. So I tried to convince him that I could hire people to do this job. He's already established a price and I'd like to come work inside and start learning the business. And he wasn't totally open to it. So I then started catching snakes when I found him to bring in, because my dad absolutely could not stand snakes until he let me hire people to do the outside and work on the inside. And, as they say, the rest is history from there. So I got my way, but I had to be a little bit aggressive with my tactics to get him to allow me to hire other people to mow the grass. So,
and that did pass the 4-way test in those days?
It did. Well, I don't think I was totally familiar with 4-way test in those days.
Okay.
But it was fair. It was fair, I think, to all concerned, because I wanted to expand my mind, right, as opposed to just mow grass. So,
all right. Well, then look where you've come. That's
Yep.
awesome. Hugh, tell us about one of your memorable summer jobs.
Well, I used to work for Shaker Day Camp in Hudson, and I drove a little Volkswagen bus and picked up campers. So one day I thought it would be cute to have some water balloons and throw them at the other bus. Except in downtown Hudson, there were the police, and they saw me do that. So they stopped me and pulled me over, and I kind of got in trouble. No tickets, though.
This is a pretty rambunctious crowd. Tamara, share something that you did. So you bring a little class to this.
Yeah, you guys, I'm pretty straight-laced growing up. All my summer jobs were restaurants and things like that, but I did have a summer in college where I had to do lab work for my undergraduate degree in biology. So I spent all hours of the day in a marsh, and then I'd come back to the lab and separate the bugs from the leaves that we collected. So I mean, that's adventurous for you guys. I don't know what else to say.
That was pretty glamorous. Good for you. All right, let's bring us home here. Sandy and Aragon.
I have never in my life had a summer job. So my dad would not let us work. So the only job I've ever had besides working for the Board of Realtors is I worked for 3 months for Goodyear while a woman donated her kidney to her brother. So.
Well, that's got a good story attached. But,
yeah.
Good for you. I always made my kids work. I should have talked to your dad before I did that, but.
We wish he would have let us, but he wouldn't let. He kept saying, "You'll have your whole life to work. You'll love this someday."
And looking back on it, you love it, or you think, what did you miss out on? All that good fun stuff by dumping flour on people, or
sounds like I missed out.
Sorting bugs. Well, I had one that you wouldn't have missed out. I actually spent a summer. You know those little black marble notebooks that if you're old enough that you had to use them for your lab, or you might have written your exams in, that they had stitches in the middle? Well, those don't come with round corners. And I spent a summer between college and med school running a press to cut the corners of those books. And I would grab them like 10 at a time, slam them in there and cut the corners. And it made it very clear to me that I really needed to do something that I wouldn't like daydream and potentially cause a safety accident. So it was memorable. It's all part of growing up. Okay, for announcements, I wanted to clarify for board members that are on here that although I was trying to juggle the board meeting because I was supposed to testify in Columbus next week in the morning, but the legislators bumped that down for 2 weeks from now. So our board meeting, despite the last minute scurry, as soon as we sent out that we were going to look at opportunities to pick another time, the legislature and our government affairs person got back and said, I didn't need to testify to try to make sure that legislators don't call the shots during a pandemic, and they allow that to the public health experts. So that, stay tuned. I want to say special thanks to Sandy Aragon and Carol Martina Becker and Steve Bowie for their work putting together a survey to look at our opportunities to engage in the future, and especially better engage as we plan to move towards some more in-person meetings. So that should be out later this week, and that'll help us navigate and plan Steve's year and his budget. I also want to let this team know that there's a Rotary Club in India had been going through international matching grants and found their project short 10 grand and reached out to our colleagues in Canton, who in turn reached out to us to see if we could organize 3 clubs in our region to assist the project in India, which is actually funding oxygen extractors. If any of you have friends that have family members in India, or if you have any family members in India, you're aware of the challenge the pandemic is wreaking havoc with their system, and they really cannot get oxygen cylinders. So there's a piece of equipment that can extract relatively low concentrations of oxygen, but would be very valuable to make an illness not progress or to help the convalescence. So we decided that we were going to step up and contribute the funds to make that move. So we'll get you more details about that, but that's pretty exciting. On June 12th to the 16th, the 2021 Rotary Convention will be taking place virtually. So please, you can take advantage of that and register, and we'll have that attached to the newsletter. There's a in-person outdoor service project that is being put together by our diversity team, whereby we will beautify the outside of 5 homes in Middlebury. And we need some volunteers. We'd like to have probably 4 people per every household. So that's 20. So we need probably about 15 additional Rotarians who are willing to put on their Rotary shirts and come out to do a little beautifying of the neighborhood. Jack Herrick has been orchestrating the purchasing of the equipment and getting donations from local nurseries and places like the Home Depot. So please, I would ask you to reach out to Steve Bowie or Gina K. Maddox. And I don't see Gina K. here. So Steve, you and Jack, hopefully you could split the business and we can get a work for that. The Middlebury is not this coming Saturday, but the following Saturday, the 12th. We expect it's about 5 hours worth of work, is estimate by our master Jack, who's been doing a lot of the groundwork. No pun intended. Jack, do you have anything else you'd like to add? Or Steve?
I would say yes. I don't think it's going to be 5 hours that will be involved with over there. More likely, if we're organized, which I expect we will be, 2 to 3 hours would be better to say. Especially with that many people coming out, we should be able to knock it out in 2 to 3 hours.
All right. So Jack or Steve, if you can keep a tally so that we know, and then we can have a wait list with phone numbers in case we get into trouble. And then we need to consider a rain day. And finally, I would like to announce that because we've been virtual and RI said we didn't have to keep tabs of attendance, Brian Casarco shared that we do have some folks that have had perfect attendance for a long run, and we see those folks here every week. We'll be operating on the honor system this year. So if you think that you attended most all meetings, but you also attended other things like the board meetings, the council of chairs, some of the work that we did offline with the our strategic plan work, please let Brian know, and we'll get credit for us to continue to make those perfect attendance activities moving forward. Okay, at this point, we've got Ann. Tell me how to say your last name. Is it Graffice? Graffice, Ann?
It's Graffice.
Graffice. I'm
Yes.
sorry about that. Ann, thanks for joining us today and welcome us. Ann is the executive VP for Public Affairs at the Hall of Fame Resort and Entertainment Company. She had joined the Pro Football Hall of Fame 5 years ago and then has evolved to this role. Prior to that, she was executive director of alumni engagement at the University of Mount Union, her alma mater. She comes from a finance background and sounds like she really is moving things along at that Hall of Fame. So we're excited to hear what's been going on. Ann?
Well, thank you all for having me. I want to say a special thanks for the prayers at the start of the program. Given what we've been facing through a pandemic, I can assure you that they are much appreciated. And so I'm just very pleased to be sharing some time with you today. I send greetings from our CEO and our chairman of the board, Michael Crawford, who has been with us for about 18 months, almost 2 years now, who I am very proud to work with and have for the past year and a half. So I have a slide deck that I'm going to attempt to share, and I'm going to breeze through this and absolutely welcome anyone to interrupt me with questions. I will take a few questions at the end, and I will try to get through the bulk of the material. This is going to be a very high level overview of what we're doing, kind of progress, because I know so many of you drive past or have been a part of this for for a couple years now. And so I'm sure that what I'll be sharing is going to be very welcomed by many of you. So let me see if I can do that here quick. Can everyone see my screen?
Not yet, Ann.
Not yet? Well, let's see here.
There you go, Ann. We're getting it now. Thank you.
Great. Okay. Thanks, Maddie. All right. So I'm going to play from the start. All right. And so Maddie didn't do herself justice. She is our director of communications here. She actually was with me since I was at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And so she's my right arm, and I very much appreciate all of her time and effort. So if you allow me just to breeze through these slides, of course, we have to have our disclaimer. As a publicly traded company, these are very important items for us to disclose and to share. And I know many of you on this call know and appreciate why, in fact, we have to do that. But many of the statements are forward-looking. And so as a representative of a publicly traded company, I wanted to share that quick slide. So what we are, many of you probably know us as a project that was born underneath the auspices of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And so a lot has changed, actually. I was hired, as was shared by David Baker a number of years ago, to help build and put together what is now this incredible project, and quite frankly, as an extension, this incredible company. So what we are as a company is more than just that destination, which was originally conceived. We are that destination, which I'll talk more about, actually primarily about during my remarks, but we're also very excited to be building a media company as well as a gaming company. And so you'll see the different theme-based attractions that we are building that will host many a live entertainment opportunity as well as lots of hospitality. But I'm also excited to share that alongside of that, we are building a media company that is built upon the power of the original content that we have access to. And I'll talk a little bit more about that here in a moment. Also, we are a gaming company, very interested in what's coming out of the state, out of Columbus related to sports betting, and want to take full advantage of that opportunity when it does present itself, and we believe that it will. But we also just launched our first fantasy league, the Hall of Fantasy League, and I can answer some questions about that as well as I go through the presentation. E-gaming is also a line of business that we are building up and developing as a company. And so as you can see, each of these three different business verticals gives us an opportunity to not have just one oar in the water, right? And especially during COVID, that was incredibly important, certainly for reasons I probably don't need to share. But building a destination asset in the midst of a global pandemic when nobody's traveling was not exactly ideal, right? And so what we did was we took that opportunity to really put our time and our effort into the media, into the gaming arms, and we lifted those opportunities up in short order, and definitely now have many things to speak about as it relates to those things. So that being said, we will be building, and we are building. And so if you've gone down 77 anytime here recently, you've seen that build happen. Just to recap a little bit, phase one, which is already completed, just over $250 million worth of assets have been created by way of phase one. And those assets included the stadium, which we own. Those assets also included several of our youth fields, the National Youth Football and Sports Complex that is currently on our campus, as well as enhancements to the campus and lift up of the Hall of Fame Village Media Company. As part of phase two and the footprint that we're actually building now, with is just about 120 acres, you'll see the different items on the screen as shared with you today are those being planned or in progress. And so I'll start with the one that you probably see from the highway, which is the Constellation Center for Excellence. That is a 75,000 square foot multi-use office building. It will be a center and a hub for research and development related to sports and research. And we're very excited about that building coming up out of the ground despite COVID. And as you may have seen, actually, it will be complete. It is, I think, core and shell scheduled to be complete by August by enshrinement. And the most exciting part about that for all of you is the front facade of that building is actually a scoreboard, which if you've ever been out to Vegas, it's much like T-Mobile Arena, where if you're in the building, you'll be able to see out. But when you're in the stadium, it actually will be a scoreboard with replay and the whole 9 yards. And so both end zones are being completed as part of phase two. Instead of stands in the alternate end zone, we actually are building much more reflective of what the demand looks like today in the marketplace, which is an entertainment space. So there will be another scoreboard that will be ready to roll by enshrinement this year by August. But that scoreboard in that area surrounding will actually be much more interactive, where groups can come and enjoy. It will be developed, of course, but it will be more of an area for communal gatherings, much more in a manner that folks are gathering in today's. If you go to different arenas and sports complexes now, they're building a lot of spaces that way, very interactive in their nature. So it was very good for us to be responsive to what we're seeing the demand in the marketplace share with us. So also included in phase two is an indoor water park, a second hotel as part of phase two. Our first completed asset, I should have probably started with that, is the DoubleTree downtown Canton. The DoubleTree, we actually put in about $30 million to renovate what was the McKinley Grand. Incredibly proud of that facility. We actually renovated that during COVID, which was an amazing task. We opened just before the holidays, and although as challenging as you might understand it to be, we're actually seeing an uptick as we come out of COVID. So if you get a chance there, if you haven't, there's a wonderful restaurant and bar called the 330 down at the DoubleTree, and that is the first hotel of phase two. The second will be called the 11. It's another Hilton property. It's actually one of their Tapestry hotels, which is more of their uniform line. You can actually do a themed based, and ours is obviously called the 11. It will be all football themed and higher end. We're very excited about that. Also on site will be a center for performance. That's number 7 on your screen. That's an indoor field house that will be home for the NFL Alumni Association and their Alumni Academy. If you read at all this past season that we had the Academy on site, but that was very exciting for us. But think flat floor space that could actually, entertain the likes of auto shows, home and garden shows, indoor football or indoor tournaments, indoor training facilities, those types of things. Retail promenade, there'll be 2 of those actually, with about 10 to 12 different storefronts each. We did already announce that Shula's, Top Golf, several others will be announced here in the very near future as they come online. So we're very excited about creating a space to dine, to come and enjoy. It's very unique to just us. We certainly don't want to be in competition with, the Belden Villages of the world. or our local folks who are, doing great business, conducting great business. So let's stay tuned for more very unique retail offerings that will be coming to the retail promenade. And then number 9 on the screen shows Play Action Plaza. That is an outdoor interactive green space. Think amphitheater, think entertainment space during the seasons that allow us to, engage folks and have a place really for folks just to really be with us all the time, our local folks especially. So phase 3 is actually on the books. We're very excited to, be planning already for what is next. If Mike has said many, many times, with a project like this, you're never done building. And so what we've done is really started to plan what in fact that'll look like. Think an additional living component, think some maybe potential medical medical presence on site, and then maybe some more interactivity as it relates to things that we can provide by way of entertainment. So phase 3 on the books, but then again, unlike what had happened in the, the initial plannings of the project, you don't build a church for Easter Sunday. And so what has been planned and rephased by Mike and the executive team here is a much more planned project. It's a much more financeable project. It's a much more digestible project. And it also allows us to look to see what we're doing and what customer demand, what the market demand actually is for what we're doing, and then be reflective of that as we continue to build out in additional phases. And so you certainly want to always give reason for folks to come back and see you a second time, a third time, a fourth time. And so what we are doing and what we're planning is based on that. So who we are, very quickly, I'll just share, this is our executive team. And a part of our role here as a publicly traded company is to create shareholder value. And so, a lot of times when you're a newly publicly traded company, that value comes by way of your leadership team. And so I'm so proud to stand alongside and work alongside of the folks that you see on this slide. Their experience is very vast and incredibly deep. And some of the brands that they represent are shown on this slide. The years, I could go on and on. But the wealth of experience that they lend to the project I get to witness every day, and hopefully you will bear witness to as you see this project lifted up day after day. But yeah, a lot of folks look to the leadership team, and we have been delivering, I'm very proud to say. So our approach, I'm going to go through this wheel just to share with you a little bit more about how our company is run and how we do what we do and why we do what we do. So obviously, number one, we definitely take great pride in leveraging and bringing the most powerful sport in America, football, to life in a number of different ways. And we do that through an integrated platform, right? Exactly as I said, we're building a theme-based destination. We're also building a media arm and a gaming platform, all rooted in the most powerful sport in America. And, by partnering with football and other sports, we're able to do that in some incredibly meaningful ways. And we're also able by delivering varied experiences. And so we take all of that, we maximize that through media, and then we create long-term growth potential for our shareholders. And again, it all ends up, it actually starts and ends with the exceptional leadership team, which I just mentioned to you. So this wheel is really important because you can see there's a very planned progression of how we, our methodology, I should say, of how we go about doing what we're doing and how we plan to be successful. So where we are now, probably the reason why most of you tuned in today is you want to see exactly where we are and what progress is happening. So this is the planned footprint of phase 2. As I said, about 120 acres. This is the view from 77. If you have been here lately, you would have had dirt on your shoes, and that's a really good thing, right? This is a project where things are moving. We took down almost 100 homes, a couple commercial structures to actually make sure that the footprint for phase 2 was ready to roll. And I'm super excited because, if you have been part of this, as I have been pretty intimately for a number of years, there was a lot of promises. There was a lot of over promises, quite frankly, and a lot of under delivers. And, I took special note of your 4 tenets when you started the call. Is it the truth? Is it beneficial to all? And, I think one of the things that I'm most proud of by way of working for this company is the fact that when we say something, we do it. And that is something that we've really had to overcome. I think in years past, I'll just say the elephant in the room. You know, a lot of things were promised, and I'm sure you all saw presentations or maybe saw a rendering something different than this, but and we're told it was going to be done by X amount of time. And so, you know, it's been very important for us as a company to say what we're going to do and then do it. And we don't ever speak to anything that we are going to do if we don't believe that we have the financing or the wherewithal or the ability or capacity to do it. So it's very important for me to, you know, stand before you today and say, this is the footprint. This is what we're working towards. It's also very important for me to tell you that we're actively pursuing a construction loan to make sure that those components of phase 2 and beyond are actually able to come up out of the ground. And so as we do capture that financing, which you're actively pursuing and making great progress with, you'll see additional news come out from my office as it relates to which building is coming up and what those timelines will be surrounding. And so I'm excited to be able to be sharing some of those things with you in the coming months, and I'll share with you a little bit more about that timing here as we move forward. So here is, I'm going to show you a few renderings, and then I'm going to show you some actual construction. So this is the indoor water park, and just a little bit about the indoor water park and the second hotel of our project in phase 2. You know, it's interesting, the way this was originally thought out, this potentially could have been in phase 3, but Mike, in his experience, and I don't know if many of you know of Mike Crawford, but our president and CEO has just a very deep history, that incredible experience, wicked experience, 24 plus years with the Disney companies, and then most recently as within leadership of Four Seasons hotels and resorts. So his experience as it relates to lifting up these destination resorts and hotels globally is unmatched, quite frankly. And so his wisdom shared with us that why wouldn't we move forward the opportunities to build things that would actually capture people's attention and their time and their dollars, most importantly, earlier in the phasing, right? So when you build a water park, when you build a hotel on site, and you've got folks and young people coming in for tournaments on our space, it just makes sense that they would come and potentially stay for longer. And so that was the thought process behind that. So the indoor water park, this is a very unique football themed experience. And if any of you, have been to these, which if you have children like I do, I've been up to Kalahari many times. They're wildly popular, and obviously an indoor space in Ohio just makes sense. And so this is one of the longer builds of phase 2, but it is an incredible opportunity for us to get folks here and have them stay a little bit longer. This is a rendering of the 11, the Tapestry Hotel by Hilton that I had shared. And it is, it'll be a very, very close proximity to the water park, but it also will be a space that houses conference and breakout meeting space opportunities. And so we fully intend to be using this as a companion space to our Center for Excellence, which is also, the one building that I had told you is already being built. This is a rendering that shares one of the retail promenades. These are just hypothetical names that have been plugged in for my purposes of sharing with you today, but you can see the vantage point to the stadium. There's actually going to be on top of the Top Golf Swing Suites, a rooftop eating area with vantage points into the stadium, very unique. Really exciting for our visitors and guests, but also for our community, because I feel, as someone who's a lifelong resident, it's fun to have these opportunities to come and visit for us as well. So stay tuned for more announcements as I shared about what will be coming into those spaces. So here's that front facade I was telling you about. This is the Constellation Center for Excellence. And this is an incredibly large screen. This is actually where our company offices will be as well, but there'll be an entertainment space that will come out off of the front, almost right out onto the field where you can see the field and some unique vantage points as well. So very excited about that. As I shared, that will be operational. That plan is for it to be operational, and we're on schedule for that plan by enshrinement. Core and shell of that building also by enshrinement, which means basically we'll just have some of the inner guts to be working out. We plan to be in that facility as a company at some point in September. So very exciting. We're very grateful to our partners at Constellation and really excited to be sharing that building as one of the second assets, I guess, to be done within phase 2. So this is a rendering of the Center for Performance. As again, I shared, it's more of a flat floor space. It will be one of the larger spaces of its kind in the region. We're very excited to bring that opportunity online. And then here are some of the different opportunities for events and opportunities for growth. As I shared, everything that we're doing as it relates to phase 2 really has multiple levels of opportunity to create some sort of economic engine for us. And so if you look at this stadium, $142 million went into that stadium. Obviously, that is a performance venue like no other that exists. 23,000 seats within that venue. It is an ideal concert venue. It actually has the only stadium in the country that has the only stage set in on the 50-yard line, which is pretty remarkable. We've had the league, that being the NFL, in, and they have just been marveling about how folks can just drop in, meaning like NBC, NFL Network, the like, they can just drop in. It used to take 2 weeks for them to load in before enshrinement. Now they can just drop in all of their needs within a day or two because of the technology and what we've been able to place into that stadium. Additionally, what's even more exciting is the fact that we're able to offer the ability for the, McKinley and others to play in the stadium. And so it's really fun to be able to share such a high level venue with the community, but then also be able to host, world-class live events, concerts and performances. But, you can also host your wedding here, which has been fun. We've had a lot of parties and different things. And now that we're coming out of COVID, it's been fun to see folks engage and, book that space. So I encourage you to reach out to me or to anyone on our team here if you would be interested in hosting something there, because it is a very unique venue that can be used for multiple different things. So National Youth Football and Sports Complex, as I said, we have actually 5 fields now. We're building several others. When you talk about economic development, this is a generator unlike any other. And again, if you have children, you've gone to tournaments, I'm sure, if you play sports, and these are multiple day activities, and people come and they stay and they spend money in your restaurants and they buy your gas. And so, last year, I shouldn't say that, the year before, pre-COVID, we had several 100,000 youth with their 1.5 parents. We've done the economic modeling, come and spend time with us. And those are real dollars spent within our communities. And so we look forward to continuing to, build upon that business. That is just going to get bigger and better as we get, come out of COVID, and folks are, still, they're continuing to pursue this. What's funny is that was one of the first things to come back online. And I guess it probably won't be surprising to many of you who are in that space, but parents are, they're wild about it, and the kids love to play the sports, which is really great. So the Center for Performance, the Constellation Center for Excellence, again, we are going to have actually in the Constellation Center for Excellence, what would be called like a TED Talk type of facility, a smaller venue, state of the art, meeting venue that actually will have technology that will be able to share lectures with experts in different fields with folks around the world. So 2 premium hotels, the water park, Play Action Plaza, and then of course the retail promenade. So these are all the items that are listed in phase 2 of our project. So again, the DoubleTree, $30 million in renovations. If you haven't had a chance, I just really encourage you to go down and check it out. It has the largest ballroom in Stark County, and it's already getting booked. We're so excited and encouraged to see, as we come out of COVID, the facilities being booked for all kinds of, weddings and other gatherings, reunions, and the like. It has a beautiful indoor pool, actually, too. A lot of folks don't realize that we actually renovated the pool as well. So it's really spectacular. Here's a few of the viewpoints. We have an outdoor patio area with fire pits, and completely down to the silverware. Every stitch of everything in this hotel is new. And I can attest to that, as Maddie could. We actually all as a team went down and put up the towel racks, put TVs in rooms, and helped unwrap silverware and everything you can imagine. And it was really fun to do that, because we all have a vested stake in the success of this piece of property. And I'm so excited to be able to connect to downtown by way of this hotel. So current construction, just to show you a little bit of drone footage. This is where we cleared land and we've started. We are now currently putting in infrastructure, very important infrastructure, think sewer, utilities, those types of things that need to happen before, the non-sexy stuff, the stuff that folks don't really understand how important it is and how laborious it is, quite frankly, but that stuff is going in now. This is a time lapse courtesy of Maddie of the Center for Excellence. It's been fun to watch this be lifted up despite COVID through the winter. And now it's, I mean, it's really taking shape. I'm sure many of you would agree that's incredibly exciting to see that building coming up out of the end zone. And then you'll see by way of this shot, the alternate scoreboard. And it's just colossal in size, but you also see there, it's dirt now, but we are actually building around that scoreboard, all of those entertainment spaces. And so here is, this is a slide that just shares a few of our partnerships. And I put this up to share with you that it takes a village to build a village. And so not only does it take great leadership and partnership within government, private and public partnerships, you know, a lot of that are listed here. And so these are just a few of those that we operationally are in business with, and definitely looking to others, and then the sponsors and those who bring their products to our area, into our project, and to our company, and help us do what we're doing. And so there's a lot of names there that are very well known, a lot of global names, but then some that are local. And I think that that's very important for me to continue to share with you all, that, you know, it's very important for us as a company to make sure that we're lifting up locally folks that are appropriate as it relates to being part of the project. And we can talk more about that when I'm done. So anyways, this is the last slide that I have, and it really just shares again that wheel for you all to understand how we are building this synergistic revenue model. All of the things, all of the components of the company are very planned out, and it is a cycle that we are doing across multiple business verticals. And so you'll see, you know, the youth sports, the sports betting, the sponsorship and media, the stadium, our ability to actually place all of those things within that stadium, the water park and the hotel, and then of course Play Action Plaza and the Center for Performance. So there are many, you know, that are offsite, that are not actual physical destinations, but the physical destinations play in. And so it's a very synergistic model that we have employed and that we're building. And so I know I talked a lot, I talked really fast, but I tried to stay within the confines so that I could give folks a chance to ask questions, and I'll do my very best to answer them. I could go on for days, so staying to 20 minutes is very difficult for me.
And that's great presentation. Thank you so much. This is David Hall. I'm going to kind of go through some of the questions I've been receiving in the chat room, and looks like Connor may have one to start off with. Connor, you have a comment or question?
No, and just wanted to thank you for joining us. I know you had done a wonderful job at the North Canton Tap, speaking with Mike, and was glad you're able to join us here today too. I wanted to, you know, I'm a North Canton resident and volunteer with the security committee for Enshrinement Week, which I always joke we're more like glorified ushers, but that's really what we are.
You're very appreciated.
Yes, but we have a blast doing it. Obviously very excited about the progress we're seeing. Are you, well, one thing I'd ask, and I know you alluded to concerts, but are you able to speak more to some of the events coming up this summer, not just for the Enshrinement Week, but the new concert series that's taking place as well too, that some members might not be familiar with?
Sure. So we were really excited to come out of the pandemic and announce one of the first concert festivals to be offered in our Highway 77 Country Music Festival, happening September 12th. So that's a Sunday. And headliners there are Dan and Shay. If you like country music, you are in for a treat, because this is going to be an all-day affair with some of the biggest and best names in country music. And so that is our first pass at this, and more to come. Connor, thank you for asking that question. Tickets are on sale now for that day. And then more to come. We actually are, you know, trying to be planned and measured as we go out and capture more acts. And we really wanted to see too where our governor landed as it relates to capacity. You know, you can imagine, you know, it's kind of like walking a tightrope. It has been, you know, because it's the chicken and the egg. Do you go out and you pay big dollars for some of these acts, and then you can't have but a third of the capacity, you know? And so it's I'd be very assured on every level, our company is about being fiscally responsible. And so in doing that, we've been very responsive to what the governor has been saying. And so we're really pleased to be offering our first concert in September. You will absolutely see more of those types of opportunities happening being announced over the coming months. And you're going to ask me to undermine my efforts of my office, Connor. I can't do that, but please stay tuned, because we'll have lots more media coming out about those when they happen, for sure.
Super, thank you, Ann. I have a question from another member. If you had any comments about what's going on at the field house tomorrow with the United States Marine Corps.
I think that might be something that's going on with the Pro Football Hall of Fame. That's not our
That's
company.
not your group. Okay.
That's correct. Mhm.
All right. Thank you.
Whatever it is, I'm certain that it'll be spectacular if it's with the Marine Corps, for
Yeah,
sure.
it does sound, it says it was a silent performance. So it sounds very interesting. Have another member that's supporting you or the Hall of Fame financially, and have a question on this, maybe even a question for Connor with his financial background, but the difference between HOFV stock symbol and HOFVW. Do you have any idea what the difference between the two stocks are?
I sure do. One is the warrants and one is the common stock. So
Okay.
HOFV is our common stock and HOFVW is our warrants, are the warrants attached.
Well, very good. That's a nice plug, and we're already have members supporting you, so that's great.
Oh, that's wonderful. I should have started by saying that, because I know many of our local folks have bought stock in the company. And so I ask you to trust and stay the course, things like this. I was in finance for a number of years, so I get how this works. And, I was always a proponent of buy and hold. And so this is definitely one of those cases where this is not a sprint. This is a marathon. And this is a company that we intend to be around for, have around for a long, long time. And, it's interesting because being from here, I know the importance of what this means to the community. And so I know how hard-earned your dollars are as well. And so I definitely thank you for your belief in what we have going on. And I can assure you, we work tirelessly, not just the folks on that screen that I listed, but many others, to ensure that what we're doing is here for a very long time. So your dollars are in good hands. And so I thank you for that.
Very good. Thank you. So as you mentioned, the landscape and the vision has changed a little bit over time here of what's going on down on your campus, and got a question as to there, I guess, was supposed to have been some housing for former NFL players. Is that any part of the vision still, or?
So as far as what we're doing in phase 2, that is, we kind of we did rephase, so when it was underneath the original project was originally conceived, I should say, or envisioned underneath the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And obviously that has since shifted dramatically. So the entire project in its scope is underneath, is separate and apart from the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And so not that that's the answer to the question, but the answer to your question is, as it was planned underneath that original vision, it was part of the first pass of all of this. It is still something that we absolutely believe makes great sense. But for us, it makes much better sense to consider potentially doing that in phase 3 for, down the road. So definitely something that we believe honors the heroes of the game, as the mission of the Pro Football Hall of Fame states. But we want to make sure when we're doing that, we're doing it in a very planned, processed way. And those types of developments, take a lot of time. So we're definitely actively pursuing conversations about that, and what it looks like is in its entirety has yet to be determined.
Very good. Yeah, I definitely want to get up and running with some of the projects that are going to make you a bunch of money and can fund that.
Right.
So let me go through some more. So Connor, I guess, has a couple long questions.
Connor,
surprise.
That's not going to surprise. They're not long. I think the way I wanted to, I don't know, the phrasing of them might have been long today, but one of them was, for a lot of our members that are, obviously growing up in Northeast Ohio, Akron and Canton have both been like homes, but I think there are stark differences between Stark County, Summit County, and, greater Canton, greater Akron. But with this big push now between the two chambers for the Akron Canton Metroplex, as Hall of Fame Resorts and Entertainment, are you guys doing anything to really capitalize on that or push that as far as, attracting other brand partners as a destination that's not just Canton, Ohio, which might be viewed differently as, well, this, large metroplex just south of Cleveland, where, I forget the statistics on the number of millions of people that live and work here, but I just was curious to know if that's been something that, are you guys using that term now more when you promote the region, or is that not something that, you guys are really focused on?
Well, that's a great question. And we absolutely embrace the Metroplex. We absolutely love the fact that, folks would put us in a position to, expand beyond our borders. I'll be very honest and say to you, a lot of folks, our tourists don't really know Stark County versus Summit County versus, what have you. So for us, the Metroplex makes sense. That being said, last year, well, pre-COVID, I keep saying last year, it's almost like COVID didn't, like that year is gone. 2020, it's a blur, but we had over 2 million people visit us for various reasons, whether it would be enshrinement or other opportunities and events that we have on site. So, we absolutely want to capitalize on our ability to expand our borders as much as we possibly can. We actually, I'll give you a stat that's pretty interesting. Of the 200,000 plus that I shared that are on our youth field, over 80% of those were from out of state. So, I mean, that's really good, right? So tourism is that's the best kind of economic development, right? Because it's born on the backs of those that are traveling to us, right? It's not born on the backs of those of us that live here. And so, yeah, I mean, the Metroplex, definitely to answer your question, is something that we embrace, we welcome. We're certainly never going to stop saying Canton, Ohio, obviously the birthplace of professional football. We're very proud of that. But we also know and understand too that regionally, I'll use another example. We have been very, very steadfast in our desire to be very diverse in how we are bringing folks into the project. Now, that being said, within Canton, Ohio, if we were just to say Canton, Ohio, there's only 5 as it relates to construction, very small minority contractor firms. And so, we know and appreciate maybe those 5 aren't always able to be a participant, right? So we've had to open up those borders. So whether it's regionally with Akron, with Cleveland, with Ohio, quite frankly, we want to make sure that we're as inclusive as we possibly. We want to welcome all, but make sure that we are, touching as many folks locally as we can. Canton, of course, unapologetically. But the Metroplex it just makes sense, quite frankly, from our standpoint. And we very much support that regional effort. We very much support the airport. We're very much working in lockstep to make sure that we're talking with the right folks, or with as many folks as we can, I should say, to make sure that we're being very collaborative in how we are creating a marketplace for ourselves.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. No, hey, I'm proud of Canton. Yeah, absolutely. Not saying you get rid of Canton. I just was curious for, especially for some of our, Akron focused members too. And I wanted to ask just now, Centennial Plaza, did you guys have anything I wanted to make sure I'm not confusing the Hall of Fame's efforts and your efforts. Was that the Resorts and Entertainment, or was that the Pro Football Hall of Fame?
Right. That was not our effort. That was, and quite frankly, that was more of a regional effort, if I were to say it. That was, the city of Canton actually pumped in about $7 million. That's about a $13 million project for the community. And so it was really more of a regional opportunity for local investors and businesses to step up to the plate and be a party to something that the entire community in the region can be a participant for. So it was really the Pro Football Fame's thought, and others too, quite frankly, to build something that could pay homage to the fact that we are the birthplace of pro football. We wildly, obviously we support it. We're going to be doing programming at the site, but it was not an effort that was part of our development project.
Okay.
And thank you very much. I don't want to interrupt, but we're pushing 1 o'clock here, and we typically end at 1. Dr. Rob may have a few follow-up or some comments here for the end of the meeting. If you have time, we generally stay on for about another 10, 15 minutes. If you have time, we'd love to have you hang around, maybe answer a few more questions.
Thank you, Ann, and thank you, David. Next week's speaker is our own Chaz Billington. He is the chair of the newly formed Akron Rotary Risk Management Team, or at least the reformulated, because apparently we used to have a risk team in years past, but that's gone by the wayside during my tenure. He's going to enlighten us as to what the process is, what's the purpose, what's the goal, and some information about a new waiver form that we are attempting to roll out. Happy birthday to Pat O'Neill, Paul Catania, and Scott Manby. All have birthdays on the 4th. And David Hall, our greeter today, has a birthday on June 6th. Our joint anniversaries are Deborah Cook, 26 years this week, and Judge Catherine Michael, 5 years. So that's the business. Thank you again, Ann, and I'll adjourn the meeting officially. If I can flip to get the bell. I love to do that, to torture my colleagues here at the hospital. Thank you, everybody. Have a good week. And if you can stay on, please stay on.
Hey, Dave, I had a couple, I was looking at the time and I stopped, but I had a couple other questions that Ann may or may not be able to answer. And if you got to go in, no worries. But
Ann has been gracious enough to offer to stay on. I spoke with her earlier.
Perfect. Well, I mean, I'm curious too. And again, I know you can't speak to certain things, but being a Stark County resident still, I'm just, is there writing on the wall for McKinley High School? Is that, I mean, I think that's one of the questions I get all the people think for whatever reason, volunteering, you have this information. I have no idea, but I mean, parking has been I think a perennial challenge during Enshrinement Week, especially in recent years, just given the, work of before the Resorts and Entertainment Company came to be with David Baker and all the hype and just the growth, which has been phenomenal. Is that, maybe you can't speak to it, but I'd be shocked if that's not part of the 600 acres you allude to that's available just to keep that high school there right on the property up next to, the Hall of Fame Village and everything else, especially when, school starts letting out and then you've got kids just coming out and if this is going to be a retail destination and everything else. I'm just curious to know, is there talk about McKinley having to be relocated and that space being used for parking or something else, or you have, no comment, you can't comment? Just was curious.
No, I'm happy to comment on that. That's a question I've been asked for years. And as long as McKinley High School wants to stay on in that property, they will be there. We welcome them as a partner and as a neighbor, quite honestly. And I'm going to challenge you a little bit, because I actually happen to think all that we're doing on site is an incredible opportunity for us to engage with the young people at the high school, quite frankly. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, we're building an elite sports and entertainment complex. I mean, there are going to be so many opportunities for engagement as it relates to our ability to reach out and lift up the youth within that space. And so not only we actually, as I should have mentioned this, we obviously, the Turk workout facility, we actually put almost $7 million into that space. We absolutely are investing in and believe in them being there, them being the kids, the youth. I think that's a wild opportunity for us to really be connective as it relates to our programming, giving the kids experience as it relates to, whether it's on the job experiences or whether it's just experiences by way of engagement with the, whatever different types of things are happening on campus. I think this is, it could be a great thing. We don't have any intentions of, raising that property or making it a parking facility, anything like that. No, to address the parking, the second part of that, Connor, it's always a challenge, but please know and understand, although you might not have, you didn't see it on the renderings that I shared, there are definite parking lots planned through each. I mean, you can't do all that we're doing and have, I listed all these new things coming online without having the appropriate parking, because number one, it would just be a frustration point, right? For folks, they'd come once and never come again. Or they might not even join us for the first time if they think they can't get somewhere conveniently. And so, that's been part of, I think ultimately, the answer to whatever might even be considered a tight parking situation currently, our parking decks and the like, which, could be part of phase 3 and beyond. We have actually thought about that and have, the infrastructure has to be planned for those things on the onset. So we've thought about that, but, we also need to be able to finance these types of things and as they are happening. And so, although they are thought processes and things that we're considering, we have parking commensurate with what we're building now on the books and will be rolled out as those buildings come online.
No, that's a great response to both the McKinley piece. Yeah, I think that's obviously a great perspective you have on that too. And something that in my initial question, I was thinking just more from a business standpoint. So your thought about, just lifting up that school and those students and athletes, that's phenomenal. And then the parking too. No complaints on my part. I've been thankful my in-laws or my wife's grandfather had a home that the family still owns on Broad Street. So we've been able to park there, which has been fine. But I was just curious for others. So, but no, thank you very much for addressing that.
I have a very high level of contact with the neighbors that we have still. And believe you me, they don't hesitate to tell me when trucks are going down the wrong way or when it's getting too dirty which is fine. I mean, that's what I asked them to do, is share with me their concerns or otherwise. And so it's been interesting because, a lot of folks have made a lot of money over the years on that parking situation.
Yes.
But, we also want to make sure that we're being respectful of their privacy and how we're building and what things look like. So there'll be the appropriate retainer walls, the appropriate sound walls and those types of things are all being considered in the landscaping and how we're going about this. Like I said, we really can't discount, the fact that Mike Crawford has done this incredibly well for a number of different, for Disney, but it
Yeah.
doesn't get any better than that. And I'm talking about the exact types of footprints that we're putting together here. So it's almost incredible to me. I mean, he thinks of everything. But then when you surround yourself with folks who have done this too, I mean, it becomes that much more evidenced in how it's being planned. So yeah, I'll be excited to share that with you. It takes time though. People don't really start believing till they see it. And so now it's starting to come up out of the ground and folks are starting to believe, I think, again. And so we have our work cut out for us, but we're up for it. So.
It's important for Canton, Ohio, especially. I think that can always be the case, but I'm excited to hear that, and see that things are happening. And I know great minds are behind it, of course, too. So little things like parking certainly were not an oversight, but just
definitely not.
Curious
Definitely
there.
not. Trust me, I don't need to get calls at nauseum from parking. I said they better make sure.
No, and I was sharing with Ann when she came on early, and we were testing her screen and so forth. Being from North Canton and growing up here, I mean, my dad was vice president of Hoover, so everything we did was always for the Hall of Fame. And a longtime volunteer, and just love seeing what's happening for our community.
Oh,
so thank you for all you're doing. I'm a stockholder.
Oh, yay, Cheryl, that's wonderful. I can't say, enough about, I'm part of the Strengthening Stark initiative. I've been, involved as much as I possibly can been for a lifetime. And it is really interesting. We, by way of this project, I should have mentioned it to the greater group, but the economic modeling shows us that there'll be about 12 to 14,000 new jobs created by way of this project. And I share that. If we do this correctly, we're lifting up our community. Like I want to make sure that as much as possible, we're employing our folks within those jobs. Now, coming out of COVID, my gosh, we're all scratching our heads saying, where are we going to get all these people? But, I believe this will come full circle. And by the time these assets are built, our things will start to level off again and get back to some semblance of what one might expect. But we're also thinking about ways in which we can be training our youth to be filling those spaces and those jobs and those areas of need. So I've been working for a number of years with the RG Dregs of the world, with the folks within the school systems, with the 5 different universities that exist within our confines, right? We've got a great pool of talent right here. We just have to figure out how to channel it, how to engage, how to get folks interested, young people and their parents, quite frankly. And we've been trying to do that in a very concerted way by partnering, as I said, and being very collaborative and sharing information and doing these, those types of things.
And have you guys done any studies on if everything, we believe that everything is going to all 3 phases, and I know it's going to take time, but if, everything happens as is currently, if there's not a need to kind of pivot from the current plan, which of course is there's always changes that are made, but the projected economic impact for, the region, is that too hard to predict at this point? Or I'm sure it's been talked about in some fashion.
We haven't done but I could probably share with you something more offline, Connor, rather than in front of with everyone. Yep. There are numbers. They were on the entire project rather than, in its phased approach. So I'd rather not, be on the hook for, what in fact those looks like. But quite frankly, from a tax standpoint, even, it's in the multi millions of dollars, if not billions, over the course of time. You're looking at 5 to 10 years.
Right.
But, we do have a time frame, for phase 2. Really, what you're looking at as it relates to the build times for the items that I shared with you during phase 2, 12 to 18 months, 24 months, maybe on the outset, all things being equal with the water park. It's a little bit more sophisticated build. So, those things, as I said, are, for our company, not just our company, but for the region, then additionally, obviously, will be generators, right? So, you're looking out over the next 12 to 24 months where we'll be able to see that resulted in a number of different ways, very positively.
That's awesome. I know, guys, go ahead, Terry. It looked like Terry, were you going to say something?
You're on mute, Terry.
You're muted, Terry.
I unmuted you, Terry. I unmuted you.
I put a note in the chat, but I was just wondering, can you end up sending me a copy of your PowerPoint? I do an article for our newsletter each week, and therefore using some of your PowerPoint information, it would make so it's in the chat there, so you can get the email address.
It's tdalton1226@gmail. I got it, Terry.
All right, thank you.
You're so welcome. No problem.
And what's that slide? You didn't share it today, but I think Mike did in that North Canton TAP meeting a couple of months ago, where you show Canton and then the major cities and NFL teams surrounding. What's the geographic proximity, or what's the statistic you guys throw out there as far as the number of NFL teams were within an X mile drive to or markets. Do you know what I'm referring to? I thought
I
that's
do,
such a
I
cool
do, and I
stat.
can include that too. And Maddie, keep me honest here if you're still on. I don't know if she's still on or not, but east of the Mississippi, we can very easily say we're in very close proximity to over half of the NFL franchise cities, right? So when you think about fandom and the popularity of the sport, building something based on the backs of that popularity it just makes great sense. I mean, we literally are within a drive distance. I say drive distance 5 hours, something like that, or a fly distance of, maybe 1 or 2 hours of, it's like 40 million people. It's absolutely ridiculously phenomenal. And, when you plan something like we're planning, I mean, you really do want to capitalize on the drive, especially given the types of, the families and the types of opportunities that we're presenting. And so, and especially coming out of COVID, I long said that actually many times I spoke with folks over the course of COVID and talked about, when folks do start feeling comfortable about traveling again, they're probably going to drive first. And so how can we create that drive distance? Something engaging. The other point that I make about where we are located as it relates to the map is that where we are on the East Coast, there really isn't a destination that has what we are building. You can obviously go to Florida for that type of entertainment if you're going to go to Disney, or Sandusky, I guess, in Cleveland if you just want to do a ride park. But there's really nothing that's centrally located as we are that will have all the things that we will have. And so we're very excited about creating something that's what we consider to be very unique to the region, and hopefully we'll tap into folks' desire to be part of football. Another stat that's really interesting to share is that of those that list themselves as football fans first, 93% of those folks have never been in an actual NFL stadium to watch a game. And whether that's because of the cost of doing that, which it does tend to be pricey, or if it's just, not being in close proximity, we believe that what we are providing is an opportunity for those folks to, tap into that fandom and experience it on multiple levels, not just a 2-hour game or 3-hour game, but, multiple experiences within the confines of our campus. And so very excited about that.
And that's spectacular. And again, I feel like I've cannibalized the questions, but I just, selfishly, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on here too is so I could ask more questions. And this has been phenomenal. So Dave, I don't know if you've gotten any more questions in the chat or anyone else on wants to ask, but really appreciate you taking the time, man, and joining us.
Always great to see you, Connor. Thank you for, your support, and honestly, ask away. And if you have any others, anyone can email me anytime. Anything I can't answer, I promise you I will try.
We've just really appreciated your presence. Thank you, Ann.
Oh, thank you, Cheryl.
We believe. Yep. So.
I love it. And you know what? Honestly, I look forward to seeing you all during enshrinement. Isn't it great to see that we will be able to have festivities? Although, it gets tight during a normal year. This year is going to be it's going to be wild, but if you see me, flag me down, tap me on the shoulder, come say hello. I'd love to.
It's meant to be full capacity, correct? This year.
I believe so. Now you have to understand too, a lot of the events, obviously that's a Pro Football Hall of Fame, it's their mandates, it's what they're doing. We are participating in all of them, all of the events, obviously. And we're very excited to do that. But yeah, as far as I know, they're moving forward with, adhering to the guidelines of the governor,
right? Of
course. But super exciting to be able to welcome folks back to campus for, what quite frankly is arguably one of the greatest weekends in sports. I mean, all of the events and all the different things that are being offered. So it's exciting.
That's all. Yeah, I know, because they're doing a 2-day enshrinement, and then I didn't know if that centennial class was still, if that anything. I mean, that's again not your area, but I didn't know if you knew of anything that was going to even be happening on that front, because that was kind of waived last year. So
yeah, I'm not sure, Connor. I want to say, so the 2 different enshrinements, obviously they did some, they did do, I don't know if you all saw on the NFL Network, they did a posthumous enshrinement of a number of the gentlemen that were from each class, and it was just really special. We participated in that event, which was really fun and really meaningful, quite frankly. But in an effort to really respect the timing element, right, that we all have. So, I mean, obviously, it's the Cowboys and the Steelers Thursday. Friday is they're not doing a dinner for the Gold Jacket. They're doing it's a program show. And then each of the 2 enshrinements and then the concert. So, it's a lot longer. So for those of you that volunteer, thank you again, because I know those hours were long when it was just 1 enshrinement. So when we have 2, it's going to be incredible.
Well, we got a great venue for it, thankfully. So
yes, we do. Yes, we do. Very proud of that.
Well, thank you so much, Ann. I appreciate it.
Yep, absolutely. Connor, you take care. Cheryl, thank you. And
Oh, thank you.
Rob, if you're still there, I want to thank you all for having me. Anytime, we can be sharing our information, or, we're happy to do it. So.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Ann.
Wishing you guys the best, and yeah, hope to be seeing you around enshrinement, Ann.
Sounds good.
All right.
All right,
Thank you,
thanks.
guys.
Thank you all. Goodbye.